Hey everyone, Stockfire, and it's time for another review. Two in a week. How strange is that? But there's been kind of some new products that's been coming out, and just some new stuff that's for the cocker market, which I kind of want to give you guys some insight on and see if it's something that you want. But anyway, what we're talking about today is Meteor's new, the Box 3-Way. Their Meteor, they call it the Box 3. I'm looking at their website right now over the site here, and I'll bring that up in a second. But Meteor Paintball has come out with a new 3-way that is a pressure sensitive. I want to see what they actually say on it. Maybe we'll talk about that in a second. But anyway, it's an interesting 3-way design it's kind of cool. Then it works. So let's go through that because I have things here. I have everything kind of laid out here, and I'm going to drop over to the overhead camera here. And before we go into that, let's go over to today's sponsor of the video is GI Paintball and JT Empire and GI Sports. They're my paint sponsor, and I want to thank them for sponsoring that and sponsoring this video. But with that, let's get right into the actual review. It's maybe a little bit longer. We'll see. I may have to cut this a little bit. All right. So I know you can't see anything on this black background, so we're going to bring this in here. But this is the new 3-way, and I need my remote here to see if I can zoom in. Oh, we're going to zoom in, and it's going to focus a little bit. So this is the new 3-way, and I'm going to try to bring it up into focus here. And they had two options. This is the kind of the boxy style. Maybe this is the box cut, I guess. When I ordered, they were sold out of the other ones, and I actually like this look. And I got them in gloss. I would say the gloss is very similar to kind of Shock Tech gloss. It's shiny, but it isn't that uber super polished gloss. It's a clean gloss, and it's shiny, so it's not a semi, and it's not that. But anyway, let's kind of go through this. I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see a little closer. So it's got nice, I don't know if they're brass nickel plated barbs on it. They're not, I don't know what thread they are, so hopefully in the comments Meteor Paintball will talk about the thread size. It may be a metric thread, which I'm thinking it is. Now, I do know that these are, well, I don't know. I think the first batch were made in France, and then I think his manufacturing now is, his like bulk manufacturing is in Taiwan. So it's not a USA made product, but it is, this first batch I think is a French made product, which is kind of cool. And so anyway, so I don't know what threads he uses. He does use a lot of metric stuff, and I'm sure that would be my concern, is if you were to break one of these off, how easy is it to replace one. I would like to see a Meteor be able to have some of these barbs available for replacement on their website, just so if you were to lose one, you could go purchase one. But anyway, let's go over to their website here, and I'm going to try to zoom in here where I can see things. And the price of the barbs, so let me hit the accept on that so they can get all my life history. $49.99, so it's a little bit more expensive than some of the other 3-ways. It's about the same price as the as I think the die 3-way. I'm not going to go through what the price, and you guys can go through. So it's the $50 3-way, but there's some time and energy that we're put in this. So we'll give you a complete new feeling to your trigger pull, unlike any other 3-way on the market. It's a brand new experience, yeah. And here's why: the Meteor doesn't operate like a traditional three-way. Standard Docker 3-ways rely on the trigger plate spring to pull the 3-way shaft forward and back, or basically return return it forward. To complete the cocking style and conscious of 3-ways create a this rate creates a pneumatic return. And we're going to talk a little bit about that a little bit more. For both the three-way shaft and the trigger plate. I wonder if I can zoom into this a little bit. I think I can zoom in here. Sometimes, oop, that's too much. There we go. I think I can then scroll over. Yeah. Sometimes it makes it a little easier to read for you guys. And so it says, as a result, do not use the standard trigger plate spring. So that's the spring that's on the trigger plate of a standard slider. Okay. And it's on your frame. The Meteor 3 can fully cycle without a trigger plate spring. While it still is possible to add a spring, it must be extremely light, much lighter than what is typically used in a standard Autococker setup. Contact us to confirm compatibility with hinge frames, and the only three shaft that is pulls backward forward. Okay, so we'll talk about that. But let's go and let's bring up their little diagram here. This is a great little diagram. So it shows the fittings, shows the two O-ring sizes that you're going to want to have. The rear O-ring on the shaft towards the rear of the shaft is a standard 003 Buna, and I think it's probably a standard 70 durometer. And then the front O-ring is a 2.5 by 1.5. So it's I think that's a 2.5. I think it's a 2.5 diameter. Oh no, it's a 1 or 2.5 cross section by a 1.5 diameter. I don't know if that's outer inner diameter. I'll have to measure it, and if I remember, I'll post somewhere in here the link to like McMaster-Carr or the actual size O-ring if you're looking for replacement ones. But 2.5 by 1.5 NBR, which is Buna O-ring, and I think it's a standard 70 is what it feels like. But anyway, that is that. Let's go back over to here, and I gotta minimize this guy. Oh, let's go back over here, and I'm trying to remember how to do this. Nope, that's not how you do it. Oh, okay, so I want to put in this guy. No, I can't. All right, I don't know what I'm doing there. But anyway, let's bring this back. So let's pull this open. And if you look at it, the brass three-way at the front, it's very reminds me of like the A&S bell cells. Got the little tang on the front. It's kind of nice if you want to grab it with a pair of needing those pliers to help pull it out. That makes it kind of nice. It's a 2 O-ring design. So what that means is this will only work on a slide trigger. Okay, and the reason being is how this, and it's since it's a 2 O-ring style, and I'm going to bring in this. We'll bring in. I already installed it on my F19, so let's go and pull this off to the side. F19, there's the same three-way, and on a 3 O-ring style like a Shock Tech or an Inception or a Die, on a slide is the rear barb goes, the rear ram barb goes to the rear three-way barb, and the front ram barb goes to the front three-way barb because it's a 3 O-ring design. If you put a traditional hinge on it, you would reverse those two, okay, on a Shock Tech, Inception, or Die. Since it's a Meteor and a 2 O-ring design, or like a War Games style, or A&S, or Bell Cells, you need to have the rear barb of the ram go to the front barb of the three-way, and vice versa, the front barb of the ram to the rear barb of the three-way. The center barb is always going to be the LPR for 99.9% of all three-ways that are out there. And that's just how this 2 O-ring style. So it will not operate on a there we go. I'm gonna fix that light balance there a little bit. A little focus. Hold on, I gotta fix my focus here. There it goes. There it goes. On a traditional hinge, and do I have one that's sitting right here? Let me, if I have one that's sitting right here. Let me grab, I have one right back here. Hold on. On a traditional hinge, at rest, the through-way shaft is in the rearward position, and when you fire, it pushes it forward instead of, like on this, it pulls it back. Direct opposite. And so how this works, since this front O-ring and the O-ring land is larger than the back one, there's more surface area on the front. So the air pressure that's pushing against this surface area, the PSI coming in here, if they were both the same size, they'd be an equal pressure on either front and back. Since he increased the diameter of it, there's going to be, the air pressure is going to impose a greater force on the front, and it's always going to want to be pulling this forward. And so on a traditional hinge, this would be in the back rearward position, and it's always being tried to pull forward. So when you pull this forward, you're not going to notice anything. Okay, it's the idea is that it's always going to be wanting to. I mean, is it going to work with a hinge? Is it physically going to cycle? Yeah, it's physically going to cycle. But the hinge it will work well with would be an Inception rip frame hinge, and that's the one, since the Inception rip frame is essentially a slider. Then uses, it's a slider that moves back and forth. That has the components where your 3-way timing rod goes through. And then the lever, all it does is just, it pushes against that slider and moves it in the same direction. So on an Inception rip frame would be the only frame out there that this Meteor would work well with. And it may work extremely fast with that. I don't have a, I may have a rip frame. Maybe I'll have to try that. But I'm sure someone else will give that a try, and we'll let them do that. But if you see, the concept of this is larger piston surface up here. So it's acting like a piston. So the air pressure coming from your LPR, the more you increase this, the more force is going to be pushing this, wanting to pull this forward. Okay. And so it's always wanting to pull it forward. And so that's why there's no need for the trigger return spring, not the sear spring, but the trigger return spring. And so you don't need it, because it's always, when you gas it up, it's going to act like an air spring. And if you think of it like if you gas up and you pull back on your back block, right, and you can feel that when I increase the pressure here, this becomes harder and harder to pull back, because it's creating greater pressure, more force on that piston on the inside. And the same thing is going to happen here. And there's going to be a point that, yeah, you can sit there and you can fine tune your 3-way with your LPR knob, which is, with having an adjustable LPR, I think it makes it much more easier to kind of fine tune this. And you can, what I did with this guy initially, and I'm going to try to zoom out a little bit here, is I had, put this off to the side, I had initially backed the LPR down to just where it wasn't catching the lug. And then I just slowly increased it up to where I had it reliably catching the lug. And I would feel that spring pressure. Now, this is moving backwards. There isn't a spring in here. All I have is a sear spring. And the only thing is pushing it back is the roller sear in here. And the spring on here, it's just putting downward pressure on that ramp plate, which is forcing it back to the forward position. But it takes, I mean, there is, and that is, I don't know how to explain how much little force that has. If I have something that is, I mean, it's very little force. Maybe a hose. No, that's not going to work. It's a super, right now, because there's no air pressure on it, it's super light. When I gas it up, it feels like Obviously, there's more force, but not overwhelming more. It feels like a spring's in here. And the ability to be able to kind of crank the pressure up to make that spring feel a little stiffer is nice. And I mean, the point is you don't want to crank it up far enough to where you're really slamming, your bolt into the balls and stuff like that, and potentially cracking some brittle paint. But it gives you that adjustability on that, and I think it's neat. And I think a little bit more spring pressure, because if you have very little spring pressure, your finger comes forward faster than the trigger does, and to me it's not as fast of a gun. So a little bit more spring pressure makes this really snap back, like as fast as you can move your finger back and forth. And that's so I've noticed that by increasing the pressure a little bit, I kind of would fine tune where it felt good with my rhythm, which is kind of cool. So I think, outside of that, there's a lot of other things. Now, I did not screw around with the trigger plate in here. This is is this a stock aluminum? I'm pretty sure it's the Meteor trigger plate that came with this frame, and the sear is a roller sear. I can't remember where it's from. It's a decent roller sear. It's the factory Meteor sear return spring, and this is the one that has where I can, you could adjust the spring pressure in here. But I pulled all those guts out and actually put in a little Ziploc baggie inside the frame here, so I can just hold on to it if I ever wanted to swap it out for whatever reason. I didn't do really any tuning on this. These just have dog point screws, so flat top metal screws, but I polished the tips of them. But it's, it's almost a point where, I feel like if I were to, it's really slow, and sometimes it won't go all the way up. So what I'm feeling in this is I'm feeling the friction of the O-rings, and then the friction of it moving back and forth. So very little force to do this. Like, I would not like this. I feel like this would be a slow trigger. It's too soft it just doesn't snap back fast enough. To me, it's just too slow. So I think it's cool that, so I can control via air pressure, I can control kind of the speed in which this wants to return, the amount of force it's going to want to snap back into. So kind of cool. I think with people tinkering on this and polishing plates and going down that whole road, I think it's one of these things that kind of makes a neat tunable another option out there. And I think there is 1,000 different ways and different combos you can have with trigger plates and stuff like that. And I'm sure people will find what works well for them and what doesn't. I kind of like the fact of having a really light trigger plate. So you're reducing any of that mass moving forward and backwards. So you can make this really fast. And then something that is not binding. I think Mozak is coming out with a trigger plate that has the bearings on the top. That's aluminum. That may work really good for this. It would be really interesting. But anyway, it's just a neat design. It's a simple concept. And I think when I was talking to Fabrice, he said the tough part was finding out the right bias on how large this front piston need to be to get the kind of the right force. Like if you went too big, it may just be uncomfortable, may not feel that good, maybe just way too much force. And I think it was him finding what he felt would be the kind of the happy in between, where you have some tunability, where it's where it feels right. And so that was, I'm sure there was a lot of bodies that were made and a lot of stems that were made to figure out what works best on that. And I'm sure he's fiddled around with that. I'm going to do some CAD renderings, and I want to get some force data on the surface area of the inside of that and how much force is pushing that forward. And it's interesting because you're going to have the surface area of here and then the surface area of here, and I think you'd have to subtract, because this is going to have a little pressure pushing back against it. this is going to be greater. So to really see, what pounds per square inch, if it is a pounds per square inch or whatever, inch pounds or whatever, unit of measurement makes sense for that, ounce, pounds, or whatever. Be kind of interesting to kind of calculate that out, but kind of cool. Let me go out to the medium thing here. This is the F9, and we're going to cut in and out of here. I'm going to go show this guy shooting, and maybe we'll do that right now. All right, so we're outside with this Meteor F19 build that I did that has the new Meteor 3-way on it. It's kind of the reactive, and you've already seen kind of me going through this. So let's see how she shoots. There are some things I can do, a lot of different fine tuning with this. I haven't really done much. It has the Meteor aluminum trigger plate in here. I could probably fine tune that a little bit more, but we'll probably talk a little more about that, or I already have talked about that. But let's just see how it shoots. Using the Triad loader here, first gen Triad. This is pre-release. But yeah, let's see. I'm shooting right around 300. So she's shooting 298, 292, 293, and I'm shooting the GI 2-star right now. They're the sponsor, my paint sponsor, and I get it from Sac Paintball, or Extreme Paintball in Modesto, Sac Paintball in Sacramento, or Black Friday Paintball online, and you can see. You can go to their online store if you're local. You can see if it's in stock at your local store before you drive and buy. All right, let's see how she goes. I'm not a fast trigger. It's definitely a snappy pull, and I don't have a lot of pressure. I could probably back off the regulator a little bit. I think the more LPR pressure you put into it, the stronger the pull's going to be, because it's putting more pressure on that surface. So if I crank it up just a little bit, you kind of fine tune it where you like it. Uh-oh. Wow. This loader definitely kept up. But anyway, it's definitely unique. I think the community is going to like it because it's something that you can tune to your frame. So yeah, I think it shoots fine. I mean, you guys saw it works perfectly fine. So it's a good product in that aspect. And yeah, more about this a little bit later. So we're back now, and from shooting the Meteor F19. Okay. And I'm going to set this off to the side. This nice 681 barrel that Meteor has. This is actually a really nice barrel. Looks good on this gun. Let's set this off to the side. And hey everyone, it's Docfire. This week's video is brought to you by GI Sports and Black Friday Paintball. More on that in a minute. I have my personal fire series. Now, I haven't really taken this thing apart, and I haven't shot it a lot, to be honest. This is off the first run. It's my personal because it's got an emblem right here. But I told Fabrice I would try this on a Gunfighter frame. So I'm going to do a couple things. We'll see. Hopefully it isn't. I'm going to cock this. Let's see if everything leaks. No, it doesn't. Oh. Okay, so it needs to come out just a little bit. Yeah, that needs to spin out just a little bit more. I'm going to take this screw out and get this guy right here, and I'm going to grab him and spin him around. Okay. So I think I need to make that trigger a tad bit longer. Okay. So that, I think I need to make my trigger had it there for a minute. Let me see. Let me put this in here, screw in here. Maybe because things are, oh man, that's, oh no, that's, okay. Well, I think I was going the wrong way. No, I was right. Okay, I need a little bit more trigger range. Okay, so what we're gonna do, I need more trigger travel with this. Now, I'm not gonna mess around too much with this on camera, because I can really mess around with tuning on it. This isn't just a drop and go, so you're going to have to do some tuning thought on it. But what we're going to do here is we're going to lengthen the trigger pull a little bit. Give myself just a little bit more trigger pull. Oh man, that's on there tight. 1/8 inch. That guy is on there snug. It's on there Danny Love tight. That's probably has not been touched since I got it. So I'm going to go and take a little more than a 1/4 turn out of that. See if I can get this all to screw back in there. That guy. This guy. Snug. Snug. There we go there. I'm telling you, there's something about nice engineering of products, the thought process to go into A, simplicity, and then B, ease of use. And that is, okay, that's got a little bit more on there, so let's go like that. Let's gas this guy up. Now I can probably adjust this 3-way. I can't, if you're going to put this on a Gunfighter, do not adjust the lug. Leave the lug where it's factory. Wow, they say that ShotTech says to put that on there because you can essentially screw that lug up. Okay. Oh, I think we're there, so. Let's go down over here. I'm trying to. Okay. That's good. I almost need to go all the way back on that. So let me go back up here a little bit. Been wanting to see how this worked on a Gunfighter. I think I need to do a little bit more fine tuning on this. just right on. The pull feels a lot stiffer, but I'm going to put a light spring in this, and with that we'll come back to outside shooting. I'll talk about what spring I put in and stuff like that, and we'll come back to me being outside and shooting this outside with some different springing in here. All right, we're outside now. I have the Fire Series with the Meteor 3-way on it. I did change out the spring on the inside. I'll put, if I remember, if I have the part number for that spring, I remember where I got it from. I'll put that on up for you guys if you want to copy that spring. It's a rather light spring, so it kind of makes this trigger not too usable if you're using a standard ShockTech rat valve, because it's not pressure actuating forward. The other thing is I had to lengthen the trigger pull, so we had that a little bit further. This valve has a little longer engagement of sorts, so it's just a little bit longer on that. You got to keep in mind that if you have a trigger plate that has some dwell built into it to reduce blowback, like the ShockTech Gunfighter does, has a little bit of dwell, that you're going to lose that dwell. So your timing on controlling blowback is going to be a lot tighter. And so you definitely want to make sure you're using some sort of a force-fed hopper to kind of combat that if it's an issue and you really have a hard time getting your timing, kind of finding that nice little sweet spot. It'd be interesting to try this with a kill shot plate or even a tactics plate to see how light you could go on it. But this plate is not polished out. It's a factory plate. I haven't done any tuning to it except the spring. And the gun's shooting right at 300. So let's see how she's doing. I'm shooting GI2 Star. It's been shooting really good for me. It's the orange and red stuff. Thank you, GI, for the paint. So 308, 312, 309. So it feels like the trigger pull feels about the same as with the factory ShockTech. Now I can control that by loosening this up and see if it. And now I just popped one down there. That's probably because of me short stroking it, I think. I don't know where I blew it up in there, but let's bring the pressure up a little bit. I'm just getting low on paint too. Yeah, that's empty. Let's see. Yeah, I kind of blew it up in there a little bit. Not bad. So it's a little clean up. That's my fault. I don't notice if I notice too much of a difference between kind of the factory spring on here. I kind of want to do a little more testing on a Gunfighter to really see how this performs on it, but it's still, the 3A works fine. Does what it's supposed to do. And let's go back inside. All right, we're back in from outside, and I got the gun cleaned up from that one ball pop. And I don't know if that was from the hopper being low on paint, could have been. But I kind of want to give some kind of thoughts on how this performed in kind of the two settings in the F19, just right here, and which has the Meteor frame on it, and the ShockTech. Now, granted, I just got this in the mail today, and my testing is minimal. All right, everyone's going to have some different results, so I kind of want to understand that did I do a full review? Did a full battery of taking out to the field and shooting cases and cases of paint through it? No, I haven't. It is, in essence, a standard 2 O-ring 3-way. It's built like it. The only thing it's different is they changed the front diameter of the front O-ring to add pressure, return pressure. Like an air spring called on that. So as a function as a three-way, works as a three-way intended with mine, finishes nice, looks good, good looking setup. On the Meteor, and you guys saw in this video, this thing shot great. Consistent over the chrono. It's got a Meteor lower tube kit in it. Meteor spring, or some springs. I think it has a fire spring on the back with the Meteor front spring. Their regulator, which is like the SL3 regulators, has ShockTech front end kit except for the three-way, the Meteor bolt. So it's essentially completely a full Meteor build. Shot good. Don't have the trigger spring there. I know that Richard Rollison on Autococker Gawking Group has done some quick videos on, he actually has even probably a lighter spring than this. This is still super light. His is probably a tad bit lighter because he can get it to hold back. And I really think it's fine-tuning your LPR pressure to, which is going to control the spring rate, the air spring rate in the three-way on the return. Making sure you have a nice, smooth, light trigger plate, I think is a key thing. Will help out in that. It will make it feel really light. It's kind of nice. I don't have to fit and fiddle with the return spring here. So it seems to work. This gun shoots nice and fast. I felt just as good as anything else. It just nice. I think the three-way kind of likes a longer throw in it, so you kind of find that happy medium in the middle place there. I haven't had any leaking issues with the F16 at all, and in this configuration, it just seems to shoot really nice. So this will stay on this gun. I really enjoy it. So that'd be a fun thing to shoot to get some more testing on it. For the Gunfighter, I think I want to do some more testing. One of the things you got to remember is that with the Gunfighter, there's a little bit of dwell timing in the timing plate here. So I'm gonna zoom in here, and so if you can kind of see there in the back, I'm gonna run my finger kind of back there so you can see. ShockTechs have a little bit of a dwell timing, so that slot in the trigger plate is a little wider than the actual timing rod shaft, which allows for you to start to pull this back. It's going to disengage the sear a little bit earlier, and it's just adds a little bit of dwell timing in there. That helps reduce blowback. With this three-way ram, we want to call it, it's always going to want to pull this shaft forward. So it's basically essentially taking out that dwell. Okay, there's the shaft is always being pulled to the front, and so you lose that dwell. So you don't have to flatten your timing rod on this because it's always pulling this to the front, but you lose dwell in here, a little bit of dwell. So your timing may be a little bit tighter. That could be the reason. Maybe I had a little bit of blowback, but this this bolt's O-ring modded, so it's got the angry O-ring mod on it, and so that's going to control some blowback stuff for the ShockTech. I think the ShockTech has a heavier plate, so I think maybe running a kill shot plate or a tactics plate may make it a difference. Maybe, I don't know. I run a much lighter spring, and let me get the spring out here. This is the spring that I'm using. It's I'll just bring this up into the camera. It's a WB Jones. I got this from McMaster Car. I don't have the McMaster Car number, but that's the number. C08-002-04, and I think it's a 0. It's a lightweight spring. It's a little smaller diameter, but it still works fine in there. It's easy to get in and out. but it feels about the same stiffness, maybe a little stiffer than the one in the other frame. But I'm concerned if I go too light in here that it may have an issue with lug skip. I don't know. I can keep trying the lighter springs. It may have. I don't know. But if you are putting on a Gunfighter, just be cognizant that if you run it at a different spring, that you may, if you damage the lug components, which we don't know if that's going to happen. If you do, that's probably not covered under warranty because it's not factory. So just be cognizant of that. But then again, it's, you know, a couple lugs. They're not that expensive. If you do damage them, they are replaceable. Stuff like that. So it's an easy fix in the long run. Don't change the lug height because it's important that how these lugs are designed. They're supposed to have full contact. You don't really want to change it. It'd be interesting, like if Jason does a Hand of God tuning on this, how that works. He uses a kill shot plate. He uses a nice light trigger. He may be able to get different results, but the verdict is still out on how what works with the Gunfighter. It may work great. It may not, but I'm going to do some more testing on stuff. This is probably going to come off of this Gunfighter, and I'm going to try some testing on some different stuff. So let me set this off to the side. Let's go up here. I'm losing that stuff. What I'm thinking about doing is trying it on a hinge. I have my Nova test gun here with the only working slider Nova with their 5-way is right here. So we're going to give it a try with this. And I'm going to take off this this frame and see how that all works. But we will see. We'll see how that all works. This is going back to a hinge, and we'll give it a whirl. See how it works. And that will be the next video. But anyway, so far, we're back here. So far, I think the 3-way is a nice 3-way. I think if you're doing it on a standard slider, I think you're going to have a lot of different kind of cool results. Mess around with it. Nice, good slider. Kind of lighten the sear spring, but make sure you're getting good sear contact. You may have to try different sears out there to make sure they have reliable contacts, different lugs and stuff like that. But give it a try. Try it on other stuff. I'd love to see what other people come up with. I think it's a neat thing. I think it's something different that isn't so outlandish that it's not reliable. This I didn't do any long-term testing on it, but I think it's going to be fairly reliable because it's a 2 O-ring thing. Make sure you get some spare O-rings for it. I use the O-ring store. That's what I would use. And if you have any questions on the actual O-ring dimensions outside of go to Meteor site, you could probably message them, email them. They may be able to give you some, is it the inside or outside diameter for the second number on the 2.5 by 1.5. And yeah, that's what I would do. So anyway, that's it. Thanks for showing up. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. Docfire out. Let's just finish the video with this.